The Wilson family's annual reunion was just as suffocating as I remembered. Crystal chandeliers blazed above us in my aunt's sprawling mansion, their light bouncing off designer gowns, diamond cufflinks, and polished smiles sharpened by entitlement. The air smelled like expensive perfume, and the quiet certainty that everyone here believed they were better than everyone else. I lingered near the edge of the room, watching my cousins parade their accomplishments like trophies, promotions, acquisitions, partnerships secured through last names rather than talent. My simple black dress, chosen specifically to disappear, felt less like clothing and more like armor. Olivia. Aunt Patricia's voice sliced cleanly through the room. I almost didn't see you there, she said, her smile thin and practiced. Still working as a secretary, dear? I lifted my champagne, masking my smile. Administrative assistant. Her eyebrow arched, flawless and skeptical. At that little consulting firm. Yes, what was it called? Summit Solutions, I answered calmly. Ethan drifted over, fresh from being named partner at his father's law firm. Come on, Lev. I could get you a real job, something with an actual future. I thought about the contracts waiting on my desk. My desk, in my office, the one no one here knew existed. I'm happy where I am, I said. Happy? Patricia laughed, sharp as broken glass. You're wasting yourself. Look at your cousins, executives, partners, leaders, and you're still pushing papers for someone else. If only she knew that someone else was me. 10 years ago, this house had been the starting point of everything. I had stood in this very room, fresh out of business school with an MBA and a plan to revolutionize corporate restructuring. I believed, foolishly, that my family's connections would open doors. They laughed instead. Consulting? Uncle Robert had sneered. Leave that to the big firms. Join the family business. Start in the mailroom. Earn it. Earn it meant watching my male cousins leapfrog into leadership while I was expected to smile and wait. The Wilson empire was simple, power passed from father to son. Women married well or stayed quiet. That night, I made 2 promises to myself. First, I would build my own company without their help or their knowledge. Second, I would make them regret every dismissive word. Summit Solutions began above a Chinese restaurant in a space barely large enough for a desk and a dream. My savings paid the rent. My understanding of how companies failed and how to save them did the rest. My first client was a dying manufacturing firm no one else would touch. I restructured operations, renegotiated debt, and rebuilt their supply chain from the ground up. 6 months later, they were profitable. The whispers started. A firm that saved companies others abandoned. A CEO no one ever saw. I hired carefully. Everyone signed airtight NDAs. My name stayed off every document. To the world, I was simply the CEO. To my family, I remained invisible. As Summit expanded into a sleek downtown headquarters, I kept my cover intact. When asked about my job, I described filing, scheduling, answering emails, watching boredom erase interest from their faces. It wasn't pride. It was strategy. The Wilson fortune depended on buying weakened companies at rock-bottom prices. Summit Solutions specialized in making sure those companies never became vulnerable. Quietly, efficiently, permanently. Now, 10 years later, Summit Solutions operated in 12 cities, advised Fortune 500 clients, and dictated the fate of entire industries. And my family had no idea. Another glass? Aunt Patricia asked sweetly, though perhaps water would be wiser. I imagine your salary doesn't allow for indulgences. I accepted the champagne. Thank you. How's Uncle Robert's latest acquisition? Williams Manufacturing, wasn't it? Her smile faltered, just for a second. Some challenges. Nothing Robert can't handle. What she didn't know was that every one of those challenges was mine. Williams Manufacturing had come to Summit 3 months ago, desperate, cornered, targeted by my uncle. Now their stock was climbing. Their defenses were locked. The takeover was collapsing. I heard they hired consultants. Ethan scoffed. Probably wasting money. Those firms promise miracles and deliver nothing. Which firm? I asked. Summit something. He shrugged. No one important. Their CEO won't even show their face. Dad says it's probably some rich kid playing executive. My phone vibrated in my clutch. Emergency meeting, 9 a.m. Wilson Ventures requesting merger discussion Williams Manufacturing. I read it twice. They weren't negotiating. They were surrendering. Tomorrow morning, my family would walk into that boardroom expecting to dominate a deal. Instead, they would come face to face with the secretary they'd dismissed for a decade. Only this time, I wouldn't be bringing coffee. I'd be sitting at the head of the table. Manufacturing consider approving. Ethan choked on the words. You can't be serious. This has to be a joke. Some kind of prank. I didn't answer. I simply pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. Summit Solutions financials flooded the conference wall. Summit Solutions currently manages $122 billion in client assets. I said evenly. We maintain a 94% success rate in corporate restructuring, and our approval is required for any major changes to Williams Manufacturing's business structure. Silence. I looked around the room. Does that look like a joke? Aunt Patricia's lips trembled. This is impossible, she whispered. You're nothing. You've always been nothing. I smiled faintly. That's exactly what you were meant to believe. I turned to Mr. Harrison. Would you like to explain why Williams Manufacturing rejected Wilson Ventures' offer? He straightened. Summit Solutions intervened during the attempted takeover. Their restructuring plan saved our company. Since implementing it, profits are up 47%. James went pale. The plan that killed our acquisition, that was you? Among others, I said calmly. Peterson Electronics, Maritime Shipping, the Davidson Group. I ticked them off on my fingers. For 10 years, I've been quietly undoing every predatory acquisition Wilson Ventures attempted. Uncle Robert slammed his hand on the table. You sabotaged your own family? No, I corrected. I built something better. The fact that it exposed your business model was simply inevitable. Ethan jumped to his feet. This is insane. I'm calling our lawyers. Sit down, Ethan. My voice stopped him cold. You might want to review the contracts in front of you first. The ones your firm spent months negotiating to land this meeting. His face drained of color. You were our biggest client this year. Yes, I said. You were working for me. Maya stepped forward, placing another file on the table. Summit Solutions currently has sufficient liquidity to acquire a controlling interest in Wilson Ventures. The room erupted. Patricia struggled to breathe. James stared at his phone in disbelief. Ethan collapsed back into his chair. This is blackmail, Uncle Robert growled. No, I said quietly. This is business, the kind you taught me I'd never be capable of. I stood. You have until 5 p.m. today to review the merger terms. If you decline, Summit begins purchasing Wilson Ventures stock tomorrow morning. I paused at the door. Oh, and Patricia? The champagne you offered me last night? I own the vineyard. Bought it last year. The coffee you demanded this morning? That chain too. I smiled. Turns out my salary allows for excellent taste. In my private office, the door closed behind me and the noise finally disappeared. 10 years of pretending. 10 years of being overlooked. Finished. Maya entered with a real cup of coffee, my blend. Worth the wait? She asked. I took a sip. Every second. My phone buzzed. Messages poured in. Apologies. Bargaining. Panic. I silenced it. By noon, Wilson Ventures board had called an emergency meeting. By 3, they'd voted to accept Summit's terms. Uncle Robert arrived unannounced. You betrayed this family. I didn't look up. No, I learned from it. You were given everything. I laughed softly. You gave me a lesson. You taught me that power ignores what it underestimates. I slid a folder across the desk. You can stay on as a consultant, or walk away. He opened it with shaking hands. You thought of everything. I had 10 years. The headlines followed. Secret CEO revealed how a secretary built a billion-dollar empire. Wilson family shocked by success they never saw coming. Patricia tried to rewrite history. I released video proving otherwise. It went viral. She disappeared from interviews. Ethan claimed credit. His firm didn't back him. He quietly stepped aside. James adapted. We could dominate together. We don't dominate, I told him. We build. The real messages came from interns, founders, Women who had been underestimated just like me. 3 months later, I accepted the Business Innovation Award. Success isn't about power, I said. It's about what you do when no one thinks you have any. That night, Maya brought one last update. Uncle Robert announced his retirement. His letter ended with regret. I closed my eyes. Justice didn't roar. It waited. And when it arrived, it came quietly, served with perfectly brewed coffee and contracts no one saw coming.